IVM.
Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Edges Sledges Cricket Podcast. This is DJ from London and I've got with me this week Ashwin from Cincinnati. Ashwin, how's it going, man?
It's been good. It's an interesting week. I was telling you guys earlier, I woke up Saturday morning, which is yesterday at the time of recording this, and I was all excited for the India-West Indies T20s to kick off in Florida. I was all sad, and I started thinking, like, hey, how come there's not more coverage about this? Why is all the media about junk happening with Kohli and Rohit and stuff? We'll talk later. And of course, then Varun jumped in to correct me and said I'm a week behind. So I think I was just over-enthusiastic to see India back playing some international cricket, but we got to wait one more week for that.
Yeah, maybe we're just getting a little bit ahead of ourselves there. But Varun isn't able to join us this week, unfortunately. But hopefully he'll be back next week. But there has been some cricket going on. There was a very interesting England versus Ireland test at Lord's, which we should talk about a little bit. The Women Ashes have been going on. The men's squads have been released for the Ashes. There have been a bunch of retirements. India A's in the West Indies. There's been stuff happening on social media. There's changes to the India jersey. So lots to talk about still, incredibly, in what is supposedly a quiet week in cricketing terms, right? So let's maybe dive straight into it. So guys, if you haven't joined us before, we are a weekly cricket podcast. We come out every week talking about mainly Indian cricket. We focus a lot on the IPL and the Indian cricket team. We also talk about stuff that's going on in the world of cricket generally. Obviously, if there's something big that's happened, we'd cover it on this podcast. It's the three of us. It's Ashwin in Cincinnati, it's Varun in Singapore, and it's myself in London, DJ. Anyway, let's get straight into it, guys. Ireland versus England, the test match. Ashwin, did you follow the test match that took place last week?
I did follow it, yeah. Unfortunately, time zone didn't allow me to watch too much of it, but I did follow and I was able to catch some of the highlights. And it was pretty incredible. I mean, ended up going the way we probably all expected before it started, but definitely had some good ups and downs.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't that much buzz about the test match in London, to be honest. It was taking place at Lord's. The reason I found out about it is I was walking to work, I think on the Wednesday last week, and I saw a guy in an Ireland cricket t-shirt walk past me on London Bridge, and I was like, wait, why is this guy wearing an Ireland cricket t-shirt? And it turned out that there was a test match at Lord's. It was kind of pretty soon after England won the World Cup at Lord's. It was only 10 days, I think, between the World Cup final at the same place and the start of the Lord's test match against Ireland. Obviously, a very proud moment for Ireland. I think they've played a handful of test matches. And what a start they had to their career at Lord's, bowling England out for 85. I mean, the stuff dreams are made of. I mean, Tim Murtagh picking up 5 on the Lord's Honours board in his first ever innings at Lord's. Incredible scenes, huh, Ashwin?
Yeah, honestly, one of those scripts that any Irish cricket fan couldn't have written themselves and would have been dreaming of, right? 43 for 7, I think they were. A little bit of a fight back, if you can call it that, but 85 all out. And it's worth noting that this is after Joe Root won the toss and England chose to bat first. So an unbelievable start. Really, really happy for Tim Murtagh. One of the stalwarts of cricket, has played for both nations, England and Ireland. Now, you're just an outstanding figure in cricket. So really great to see an Irish name on the Lord's Honours board.
And your thoughts on Ireland not being part of the World Cup? We've talked a lot about the 10-team World Cup format, and for that performance to come from Ireland very quickly and very soon after the World Cup concluding. I mean, it was only one innings that they really competed in, but boy, did they compete in that one innings. And is there a case for the World Cup to be expanded on that showing?
Yeah, I think it's always going to be a catch-22. I think we talked on last week's show about how limited overs performances shouldn't dictate test selection. Wink, wink. I know you know I'm talking about Rohit Sharma. But so equivalently, you could argue that, hey, a good test showing by Ireland doesn't mean they should have been playing ODI cricket in the World Cup. But I'm of the opinion they should have. We talked about it a little before. I definitely think great argument for the game to be expanded. Look, you mentioned it, right? They only competed for one session. But you cannot have a team show up with, I think they've played 3 or 4 official test matches before in the last few years. And you cannot just have a team show up and expect to perform against World Cup winners and win or put up a fight without having enough test match experience. And so, yes, there will be test matches where the 10, 11, 12, 13 ranked teams get completely run over by the top 3 or 4 teams. But you need it to happen because otherwise they're never going to get better. So sad to see the end result. Obviously went significantly or strongly against Ireland, but I do think argument continues to exist that more teams need to be playing the sport.
Yeah, and I mean, they competed for the best part of 3 days, to be honest. So there is the argument for them to be a one-day team for sure. Just to recap, for those of you who didn't manage to follow it, Ireland bowled England out for 85 in the first innings at Lord's on the first morning. All sorts of panic breaking out in the English ranks, and scored 207 to lead by a very healthy 120 odd in the first innings. And then England, with their back against the wall, came out and scored 303 with Jack Leach, I think, who averages 4.66 in first-class cricket, scoring 92, being the highest scorer across both teams in the game. And England got 303 and then set Ireland eminently chaseable 180 odd to win, and bowled them out for 38. I mean, how hard is that going to be for Irish fans to digest? And that's the first question, Ashwin. And the second question is this papering or sandpapering over the cracks for England a little bit for the Ashes?
Sandpapering over the cracks. I love that. That's a good line. Look, it's going to be tough for Irish fans to digest 38, especially because not just Irish fans, but all of us who are neutrals who by default sort of cheer for the underdog, we were all optimistic after the first innings completed and Ireland had a pretty significant lead. So disappointing. Jack Leach, obviously not sent in as a night watchman, managed to get 92 runs on the board, highest scorer. So these things happen. I think this is obviously the difference between a side with a rock-solid domestic structure and a great pipeline of players, and who, again, are world champions right now, versus a side that, for a long time, many of the Irish players had to have day jobs because playing cricket for their nation didn't pay well enough. And so this was kind of a part-time gig, similarly with the Netherlands and Canada and some of these teams. So it's going to be a little bit of a blow. But I think to your second question, Joe Root has come out publicly and said winning the Ashes on top of the World Cup would be a huge accomplishment. We'll talk about the Ashes, I'm sure, in a little bit more detail. But I do think England looks a little bit shaky. I think Australia, granted, they lost in the semifinals in the ODI setup, but the side continues to look really, really solid. And yeah, England's playing at home, but I think there are definitely some cracks that Australia will do their best to expose.
Yeah, so let's talk about the Ashes now that it's come up, actually. So England and Australia have come out with their squads. Let's do England first. Obviously, the big news is that Jofra Archer is in. Ashwin, your thoughts on him being a white ball cricketer?
I'm assuming you mean red ball cricketer, right?
Sorry, he's a pretty good white ball cricketer. He's a world champion. A red ball cricketer, my apologies.
No, absolutely fantastic white ball cricketer. I don't think I would have been shocked if it went any other way. Young, he's got the fitness to compete in all three formats. We saw Bumrah get his introduction to Test cricket not long ago and is already the lead fast bowler in the Indian lineup. So I think it's a no-brainer. It would have been shocking for me if Archer didn't make it. I was pretty surprised he didn't play the Test against Ireland, but I'm not sure what the reasoning was for that. I think there's a couple of interesting other selections they've made. Obviously, one being Ben Stokes became appointed vice captain again, which, we were talking about in our World Cup wrap-up that has he finally erased the tapes of being in a brawl outside a bar. But to be appointed vice captain is a big, big step. So lots of choices, interesting choices that England made. But I think Jofra Archer, to me, is an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah, and I think the reason he didn't play the Irish Test was because he had a side injury during the World Cup, and they've actually revealed since that he was in excruciating pain, apparently, through the second half of the World Cup. And I mean, for him to pull out that performance with that pain on his side, I think that's just fantastic. And he's told that to the BBC. So yeah, coming straight from the horse's mouth on that. And interesting on Stokes coming back, I thought as well, because Butler used to be the vice captain, if I'm not wrong. And I don't think Butler will actually mind losing the vice captaincy to Stokes. I think Butler's got quite a lot on his plate already, playing all three formats. He's keeping in the limited overs format as well. He's expected to play tests and T20s too. And he's got all the IPLs and BBLs and stuff to look forward to as well. So I don't think he'll mind kind of what is a not very significant role of vice captain being taken away from him. And it's actually just telling Ben Stokes that, listen, we've got confidence in you. But I agree with you. England have got issues at the top of the order. I mean, Burns does not look like an opening batsman. And the fact is that Jack Leach apparently got 92. And that's the highest score that the second highest score that an English opening batsman's got since Alistair Cook retired. And the guy who got that highest score, Keaton Jennings, is already out of the team. So not sure that England are equipped yet to face the pace battery that Australia are going to throw at them. Speaking of which, I found very interesting, Ashwin, that all three players, Steve Smith, David Warner, and Cam Bancroft, were straight back into the Ashes squad. This being the first opportunity for all three of them to be selected for a test match after their bans ended.
Yeah, I mean, there was an interesting headline, I don't remember what newspaper, but it was making the round that I thought was great, and it said, getting the band back together, but obviously band was spelled BANNED. So I thought that was really well put, all three of them back together. Look, I think Bancroft, we said a lot when it happened, was probably a little bit scapegoated when the incident happened. I think obviously Smith and Warner have been sort of welcomed back in the cricketing community with open arms. You know, we've heard the crowds boo them a little bit. We've heard those things, but Warner had a pretty phenomenal World Cup. Smith was decent, did well when he needed to step up. And I think Bancroft will be welcomed back too. So I think the cricketing world wants to look past this and just is excited for a scintillating Ashes up ahead. That's basically all I have to say about those three. Do you want to talk about the rest of the Australian squad?
I mean, I think actually I want to talk a little bit about the headlines that have been doing the rounds recently. You talked about getting the band back together, which is a good one. There was also Mrs. A.B. de Villiers delivers baby de Villiers, which was just, I thought that was fantastic. That was a great headline as well. But I think we'll talk a lot about the Ashes as it comes up. But I mean, I think both teams have got their issues, frankly. Matthew Wade is an interesting selection for me. And Mitchell Marsh, I mean, it seems like Australia can't kind of look beyond their marshes, and I just find that quite fascinating from a neutral perspective or someone who doesn't support Australia's perspective. I don't see these guys as test cricketers, to be honest. They just can't compete with the all-rounders that England have got. England have got Stokes, Ali, you've got Josh Butler, who plays the role of an all-rounder, Johnny Best, who can keep wicket as well. You've got Wokes. They're going to have an absolute embarrassment of quick bowlers in their first test. Do they play? Archer is going to play, I think. Do they play Stuart Broad? Do they play Jimmy Anderson? You've got Wokes, who's in good form as well. Who the combination is going to be? Nobody really knows. I mean, it's all... England have got, I think, the upper hand in the all-rounder stakes and the lower and middle order stakes. But I think Australia have got a very solid pace attack, and Pattinson is coming as well. So, I think it'll be a good series competed between two sides, each of which have their own flaws. So it could make for some pretty compelling cricket or some very one-sided games. Who knows? We'll have to wait and watch, I think. But I think everyone's looking forward to that. That's starting this Thursday. It should be pretty interesting, I think, overall. Right, guys. So having spoken about the men's Ashes, Ashwin, do you want to tell us a little bit about the women's Ashes? And I think one of our listeners pointed out we had to make a correction on last week's show as well.
We did, yeah. It was a great call out. If you recall, last week we were talking about the only test match that was being played in the women's Ashes, and I was covering it when we were on day 3, I think at the end of day 3, and I was talking about it as though it was a 5-day match, but of course it was a 4-day match. So it did end in a draw, which I think was partly by design, a little bit by choice. I think both sides, you know what I thought was most interesting, that match feels like it's been a while ago, in addition to Elise Perry having an absolutely stunning all-round performance. What I thought was most interesting was on day 4, as the match was kind of running towards a draw, Australia was batting for their second innings. You know, in men's cricket, or let's just say for teams that play a lot more often and have a lot more exposure to the sport, they often at that point, kind of with 20, 30, 40 overs in the day to go, and it's very clearly going to end in a draw because the second team hasn't even batted the second time yet, they would captains just shake hands and walk off. And I thought what was really interesting here is that neither of the captains wanted to do that. And that's largely just symbolic, where they were saying, hey, we haven't had enough of an opportunity to play test cricket. Now that we're playing, now that we have our chance, we're going to play out every last moment of it and every last minute of it. So I thought that was really nice to see. Good result in the end for both sides. Obviously, Australia looked superior. And then we can continue with the fact that there are three T20s being played as part of the Ashes, the women's Ashes. At the time of recording, there's 2 of them are done. And not surprisingly, the Australian women have come out on top in both of them. So, DJ, did you get a chance to follow or watch either of them?
I didn't actually get to watch, but I was following it. You know, I'm a big fan of Elise Perry. for quite a while now. I mean, I think she's just an absolutely fantastic cricketer. But I actually wanted to pick your brain on something that happened during the Test match, because there were some suggestions in some quarters that Australia should have actually set up an exciting declaration, and it would have been a better spectacle for women's cricket if England had an exciting chase to go for. I mean, on the last day. And Ashwin, is there any logic to that argument? Or would they be doing a disservice to the Ashes and not taking the format seriously if they said, because they were winning, they were undefeated in the Ashes, and they still are undefeated in the Ashes. But would they be doing a discredit to the format if they set up what would be a needlessly exciting chase for the English?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. And that's where I had my assessment wrong when it was going on, where I thought they had the extra day, so they had set it up for a win. Look, I think here's the context that we probably haven't mentioned clearly enough. A draw for Australia meant they retained the Ashes because they hadn't lost yet, right? So they were holding it, so a draw meant they continued to retain it. I think it was a safe call. I think you could see captains go either way. In the situation where the skipper decided to, declare a little earlier, set up an exciting chase, and they lost, we would have all been criticizing the other way. So I could see this go either way. It's a captain's strategic call. I think in this case, they had the benefit of knowing that a draw was all they needed. They had a phenomenal first innings performance where they made 420 for 9, and they set themselves up in a perfect position to draw it out. So kudos, strategy well played.
Yeah, I think they did the absolute right thing. There was no need to let England back into this multi-format Ashes, because as you may have mentioned, that the points get added over the one-day internationals, which Australia swept 3-0. There are some points allotted to the Test match, and there's some points allotted to the T20. And the only way England could have even had a chance of getting back into the Ashes would have been if Australia had given them a target and England actually chased that down. But England themselves didn't seem to be playing very good cricket. They kind of struggled through their first innings as well. And I mean, I see no reason for Australia to have the Australian women to given them any shot at this. I would never see men's team player actually even think about that. If there's a larger context on the line, they would have just said, we'll take the draw, thank you very much, we'll try and win the Ashes undefeated, and we'll go back home and we'll have a party. So I think it's an interesting idea that Australia should have made it exciting, but I actually think they gave great respect to the multi-format Ashes and said, listen, we're here to win, we're not going to do anything that's underhanded or unsportsmanlike. And they just ground it out, and I thought well played to them. And of course, Elise and Meg Lanning again step up in the T20s. I think Elise Perry's become the first woman to cross 1,000 T20 runs and 100 T20 wickets. And I mean, she's, as you said last week, she's just getting bigger than her sport at the moment. So yeah, she's just going to set some absolutely incredible records, and we'll see where that takes her. Guys, so that's a little bit of a wrap on the men's Ashes as well as the women's Ashes, but there's been more stuff going on in the world of cricket. There have been a few retirements, so we're going to go through those as well. Malinga first. Ashwin, your thoughts on Malinga's retirement? He's been a great servant for Sri Lankan cricket, absolute champion bowler for them as well as for the Mumbai Indians. What were your first thoughts when he said he's going to retire from one-day cricket? He's obviously already retired from Test cricket, and he's aiming to play the T20 World Cup next year.
Yeah, I think it's the right, mature thing to do. I think he raised his hand and said he's going to help guide the team through the 2019 World Cup. Sri Lanka obviously didn't end up doing all that well, but he had a pretty good World Cup, you can argue. And then he just said, I'm not going to make it till 2023. I'm happy to be a mentor, a coach, whatever it takes, and just step aside and make way for the next generation of fast bowlers. But an absolute legend of the game. I didn't realize this until retirement talk, but he's going to end his career at, I think, number 8 on the ODI wicket takers list, just having overtaken Anil Kumble in his final game. He ended his final ball in his ODI career with a wicket, and 2 of the 3 wickets he took in the final match he played were these beautiful toe-breaking Yorkers that went on to hit the wicket. So I think a little bit of a poetic ending, very fitting finale for him. It's a little bit odd sometimes when a player decides they're going to retire one match into a 3-match series. But I think the board, the other players, the captain, must have all said, we want to send you off with one final performance instead of just retiring after the World Cup. So fitting, just an absolute icon of the game. I wanted to ask you separately. We're not doing a formal quiz today because it's just you and I, but I was looking up as this happened. it turns out the top 5 wicket takers in ODI cricket are all from Asia. DJ, can you name them? Do you know who they are off the top of your head with no prep?
There's going to be Wasim.
Yeah.
There's going to be Muralitharan.
Can you name them in order?
Oh man, that's going to be too hard.
Okay, let's just go with the 5. So you got Wasim and Muralitharan.
So it's going to be Wasim, Muralitharan. It's going to be... Wakar didn't actually get those many, did he? Wow. This is actually quite a hard question. It's going to be spinners. Kumble is going to be one of them.
Kumble is at number 10.
Yeah. One isn't in there. That's a bit odd. They're all from Asia, you said?
Top 5, yes.
Top 5. Wow. So I've got 3 of them.
No, you got 2, right? You said Wasim and Murli.
Wasim, Murli, Kumble.
Kumble is number 10.
Kumble is number 10?
Number 10, yeah.
Wow. I'm sure I knew this at one point. I've genuinely just blanked.
Malinga's at 9, Kumble's at 10. I misspoke earlier when I said Malinga's at 8, but Malinga's at 9, Kumble's at 10. So Murli's 1, Wasim is 2, Wakar is 3. So you thought it, so I'll give you a half point there.
So he got a lot of wickets, and I thought he
416 wickets. Yeah.
Him.
In fact, he played the fewest ODIs of all 5. He only played 260 compared to Wasim's 350, but picked up 416 wickets. Number 4.
Yeah, and he has a crazy strike rate as well, right?
Ridiculous strike rate. It's about 30 compared to 35 to 40 for everybody else. Number 4 is Chaminda Vas, Malinga's compatriot, which I didn't expect to be 4.
Oh, has he got 400 wickets, Vas?
Yeah.
Has he got 400, right? And Malinga's got 338, I think.
And number 5 is actually a man who, at the time of recording this, is batting in my home city of Toronto and is currently batting on 57 of 27 balls. And that is your man, Shahid Afridi.
Shahid!
The number 5 wicket taker of all time. Anyway, we came to talk about retirements. I digressed a little, but I thought that was a fun fact that all 5 of them were Asian. But incidentally, none of them is from India.
that is an awesome fact. And speaking of Malinga, man, like how many times have we seen that look? Did you see the look on Tamim Iqbal's face in the first over?
That's perfect. Like that's exactly the look that we are used to seeing Malinga get out of quality international batsmen across the globe. But the wide arm stinging action, crushing the toes, just doing whatever you can to get your toes out of the way, and then realizing the ball's hit your stumps. Just absolutely perfect.
Yeah, just an absolutely incredible bowler. And I for one, I think I tweeted out after we found that Malinga is going to retire that I will never forget the silence that was at the Wankhede in the 2011 World Cup final when Malinga took that nick of Sachin and Sangakkara caught him. I mean, yes, Malinga got a huge cheer at the start of the game because obviously he's a Mumbai Indians boy. But you could hear pin drop at the Wankhede in 2011 at the final when Sachin went out. I swear, I mean, and he got booed every time he got to the crowd or anything. It was incredible to watch. And then obviously he redeemed himself and when I say redeemed himself, he led Sri Lanka to their World T20 victory in 2014 against the same opponents when he just stifled our innings against, I think Yuvraj got, what was it, 21 ball 11 or something like that, while Kohli was smashing it at the other end. Incredible bowler. Also that slower ball to win the IPL this year, incredible. And it was a slow ball that he took a wicket off his last ball in one day international cricket. So as you said, fitting end to a fantastic career. And obviously we wish Malinga all the best. Another quick bowler as well retired. And that was very interesting because Malinga's obviously 35, is looking ahead to the next T20 World Cup, preserving himself. Mohammad Amir, 27-year-old, decided to call it quits from Test cricket. Ashwin, your thoughts on Mohammad Amir's decision?
Yeah, that's been a little bit more polarizing. Obviously, at age 27, you've had some former Pakistani cricketers come out and say he should have continued to play tests for his country. He needed to, show up where the country needed him most. I think just it's unfortunate, but it's an incredibly embattled sort of career where, obviously at age 18, he had the whole spot fixing, match fixing scandal, then tried to come back, couldn't quite come back, came back, didn't quite have the year that they expected to, got dropped, finally came back, had a pretty stellar World Cup. There's no denying that from an ODI standpoint. But I think it's hard to ever know what the reasoning is. You don't blame a player these days. They're not playing any real international cricket at home. They're not playing Test cricket too much. It emerged today that in the news that he's applied for a British passport. So who knows? Maybe at age 32, he'll be bowling alongside Jofra Archer. But that's a whole different discussion. I think good cricketer, really quality fast bowler, just poor choices and poor decisions ensured we've gone this path, whereas we all thought he could have been the next Wasim Akram.
Yeah, and some really poor mentors, don't forget. I mean, obviously your captain being Salman Butt, who's kind of directing this 18-year-old to do his bidding. It's just shocking. And I mean, the problem with Amir, I think a little bit is ever since he's come back. One is that they've dropped, I think, 37% of the chances that he's created in Test cricket, which is an incredible stat. That's more than 1 out of 3 chances being dropped off Mohammad Amir. He's bowled a whole load of overs. He's got an incredible workload for Pakistan in Test cricket. But the main problem he's had is that his fans expect him to have recreated that magic that he had in 2009 and 2010, where he just swung teams out for fun, bowling in tandem with his partner in crime, so to speak, Mohammad Asif, right? Yeah, and he's kind of shown glimpses of that at the world stage. Obviously, there was the Champions Trophy final where he took those 3 quick wickets. There have been a couple of other instances where this has happened, and he's actually said that he thinks Test cricket is the pinnacle of the game, but he's taken that decision. And I think Wasim Akram came out and said that this is disappointing for him. And I think it's disappointing for Pakistani fans, but at least they'll get to see him in green, which I don't think they'll mind as much. A lot of Pakistan's cricket is played in Dubai and Abu Dhabi as well, so I don't think those pitches are going to help him at all. So he's done it with a view, I think, to prolonging his career, and good luck to him, I guess. Right, so we are not going to talk about Dhoni's retirement, to be very clear in this section, but what I want to talk about, Ashwin, is another player who's actually recently retired. Yuvraj Singh. He's at the G20 Canada. So tell us a little about this G20 and what Yuvraj is doing there. Did you go and watch it last year?
I did, yeah. So when I was living in Toronto last year, it's about 25-30 minutes from the city. It's actually closer to an hour from the city last year, but they've moved locations this year. Really cool tournament. Look, any tournament takes time to pick up. So I remember saying last year that, it was fine, it was interesting, but there weren't quite enough big names. You always felt a little bit that the teams were just out there just having a little bit of fun and not quite competing as hard as you expected. I have to say this year so far, we're about 5 or 6 matches into the tournament. It's kicked off, like I said, also nearby Toronto in a suburb called Brampton. Slightly different ground, different setup, a little bit better. I mean, honestly, the big change was last year all the seats were open air and in the sun, and it's incredibly hot this time of year. So this year they've got the organizers, kudos to them, have gotten some covered seating. Look, it hasn't been without its issues. I don't know exactly all the details, but the first of the doubleheader on Saturday, I think it was, or Friday, started over an hour late. Folks weren't being allowed into the stadium. There was all sorts of growing pains. But all that to say, the Toronto side this year is being led by Yuvraj Singh. He has played 2 games so far, didn't have a great outing in the first one, struggled to get off to any sort of momentum. I think he was batting at kind of under 60 as a strike rate. But then came out in the second game and had a much better run. So pleased to see that. What's interesting is there was a game earlier today where the team batting first, Gale's side, the Vancouver team, made over 200, I think 205 or so. And without even batting an eyelid, the Edmonton team, which has Chris Lynn, JP Duminy, and Dwayne Bravo, all of them performing really well, chased down 205 odd in 15 overs. So T20 continues to surprise and amaze us. Really good to see the sport continue to grow in North America. I think the weekend doubleheaders were sold out, so happy to see it. I mean, next year I'll be back. I'll be looking forward to watching this live as well, and I just really hope the tournament keeps growing because it keeps helping the spread of the sport.
Yeah, awesome. And thanks to our listener who actually sent in the picture of Colin Munro's kit bag, which was a Delhi Daredevils kit bag. So really pleased to see that the Delhi Capitals, sorry, did I call them the Daredevils? The Delhi Capitals are growing strong even now.
We can't help it. It's just so ingrained in us, so we call them the Daredevils.
Yeah, absolutely. And was Steve Smith and Dave Warner there last year? They were the big names there last year. Like that, they were the big draw, right?
They were, but it was still a little bit sour. I think people weren't quite accepting of them right back yet. It was a little bit odd that they're not playing domestic cricket at home, but they're traveling to Canada to play. So they were the big draws last year. You did have, I think Dwayne Bravo showed up halfway through the tournament. You had a few of the names, but this year you have even more, obviously, with Jimmy Neesham playing just off his World Cup runners-up. performance, and JP Duminy and a few others. So pretty exciting. I think the more big names it keeps continuing to draw, the better it'll be.
And Polikaka's there as well, right? I think I saw Polikaka on one of the team sheets and smashing some sixes yesterday.
He is. I think he played pretty well yesterday. I don't remember which team he's for. It's a little bit too confusing for me, but he's definitely here and playing.
Yeah, well, the G20 Canada, interesting concept, interesting tournament, and we'll see whether it grows like the other big leagues. Guys, so that's kind of a roundup of all the happenings around the world. We've talked a little bit about everything that's gone on other than Indian cricket. So we will be coming back to Indian cricket, which, as you know, is our focus a little bit after this break. So guys, stay tuned and it's going to be worth your time.
Hey everybody, welcome to another week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please make sure you do. We're IVM Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. As I have asked you guys before, if you're finding what you listen to interesting, then please take a screenshot of what you're listening to, send us a note with it, tag us on social media. We'll either, talk about it, we'll take the feedback into consideration, or we'll repost it. We just really appreciate getting feedback like that, as do all of our hosts. Also, want to mention the fact that we're still hiring at the best place on earth to work in, which is the IVM Podcast Network. So if you're interested, please do send us an email to careers@indusvox.com. One other thing I wanted to mention, that this is the week of the crossover. We have not one, not two, not three, but 4 crossovers this week on the network. Hosts from one show are showing up on another. And so if you'd like to listen to your favorite host in a different context, stay tuned and find out where they appear. On the Ronnie Screwvala podcast, Ronnie talks to me about the importance of focus, empathy, and choices, and how those 3 aspects have formed the crux of his journey. On Cyrus Says, we have a crossover episode as film and TV journalists and hosts of the podcast on the very IVM network that you're listening to right now. Mr. and Mrs. Binge Watch, Anirudh and Janice Sequeira talk to Cyrus about how spouses with different tastes in TV get along, how to interview celebrities, and the onslaught of remakes. On Ganatantra, Alok and Saryu talk about the institutional tug-of-war between the judiciary and the political executive over appointment of High Court and Supreme Court judges. You can also catch Ganatantra host Alok Prasannakumar as a guest on the Pragati podcast talking to Pawan Srinath about how India's anti-defection law has undermined democracy. On a simplified shorty, Chuck Naren and Shrikit talk about all of the other unusual variants of cricket which are played around the world. Things like book cricket and stuff like that. I think you'll enjoy that. On Keeping It Queer, Naveen and Farhad are joined by Mr. Gay World India, Suresh Ramdas. He throws light on gay pageants and why this representation matters. On States of Anarchy, Anohita Majumdar of Himal South Asian joins Hamsini to discuss the crackdown on press freedoms across South Asia. On Paperback, the founder of Arugula & Company, Niharika Goenka, joins Satyajit and Racheta to discuss her secrets to the healthy lifestyle and books that motivate her thoughts. And with that, let's get you on with your show.
Welcome back, everyone. From that break, we are still here talking about the Indian tour to the West Indies. And obviously, India A is out in the West Indies at the moment. They're playing an unofficial test match. So, Ashwin, do you know what's going on with that test match? What's been happening?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure what unofficial test match means in terms of the overall status, etc. But anyway, it started about 4 or 5 days ago at the time of recording this, and it's just wrapped up yesterday. India ended up winning the test match. India A, I apologize, ended up winning the test match by 6 wickets. So just as a reminder to our listeners, they played 5 unofficial ODIs. India A won 4-1. And even the one that they lost, West Indies managed to sneak through with 1 wicket remaining. So, pretty close game. I will say the test match has been a little bit more one-sided. So some really interesting performances. So most of the side playing, just to give people a heads up, or the Indian side playing the India A game are sort of the players on the fringe, and that's traditionally who's played India A. So you have players like Gill, Dube, Krishnappa Gautam, Shabazz Nadeem, Mohammad Siraj, Mayank Markande, all names we've seen a lot of in the last few years, but haven't quite played frequently in India colours. The 2 other interesting players that played are Hanuma Vihari, who's captaining the side, and Riddhiman Saha, who is the wicketkeeper. So Saha had a really good outing, which I think will help his chances for the national side. So just to quickly wrap up what happened, West Indies A made 228, so decent outing. India came back with 312, so not quite as dominating a lead as I'm sure they wanted. Other than Saha, the other strong performance was by Shivan Dube, who we expected to wow us in the IPL, but fell a little short, but good outing here. Then West Indies A came back and got 180 all out, and Indian batsmen were able to finish it off with 6 wickets to spare. So a couple standout performances. I mentioned Saha already, had a good outing with the bat in the first innings. The other big one for us Delhi Daredevils formerly fans, Delhi Capital fans now, that we let go of this year, he moved over in the trade to Hyderabad, is Shabazz Nadeem. So picked up 10 wickets in the match, absolutely standout bowler, had really good run. I think one of these players who just unfortunate, wrong place, wrong time, and just wrong era, because in another generation, he may have been playing for his country a lot, but has never really played yet for India. But really good, 29-year-old, you never know. Maybe there's an India appearance on the cards for him, but fantastic India A performance by Shabazz Nadeem.
Yeah, awesome, Ashwin. Thanks for that update. But I want to actually dive a little bit deeper on some of these and unpick some of these performances. Firstly, Saha. Yes, he batted very well. He's a great wicketkeeper. I think he got 66 in the first innings and he batted a little bit in the second innings as well. But do you think this has put him in contention ahead of Rishabh Pant? Because I know we were all quite bullish about Rishabh Pant, who is now the incumbent, having performed really well in the England as well as Australia series. Is this pushing Rishabh Pant out? Is it putting pressure on his place?
I don't personally think so. I don't think Pant is going to miss out just yet. I think Pant will start as wicketkeeper. I think if obviously something goes drastically wrong, either with injury or poor performances, I think Saha's right on his heels. So it'll hopefully push Pant to bring his A game and perform at his best ability. But I don't think Saha will start.
Right. The second one I wanted to speak a little about is Shivan Dube. Right. As you mentioned, he was supposed to smash everything out of the park in the IPL. I think he played for the Royal Challengers Bangalore. I think I picked him in my fantasy team in the first game that they lost so horribly against Chennai in the opener of IPL 12. But Shivam Dube got 71 of 108. He is a seam bowling all-rounder. Hardik Pandya isn't in the squad for any of these games. And I think we were talking offline as well about how Pandya seems to get more and more injured the more he rests. And so how that is that seems to be is a vicious circle of injury where he rests and then he injures his groin and then he rests some more and then he injures his groin again. And so we're hoping he's going to make a comeback soon. But Shivam Dube, do you think he's being seen as or groomed as a Vijay Shankar 3.0, maybe?
Vijay 3.0, I like that line. That's a good callback.
This following from Hardik Pandya 2.0, right?
Yeah.
Vijay Shankar, toe-crushing boy.
Exactly. Well said. Look, I think maybe, but I think he just needs a lot more time. So he is 26. He's not young, but it's worth reminding people. I mean, he's only played 23 odd List A games, 10 to 15, I think, first-class games and similar number of T20s. So still very early in his career. Yeah, he does average 48 with the bat and about low 20s with the ball in first-class cricket. So has had a good start to his career and has a good run, but I just think he needs a little bit more time. I think, it takes... And that's the beauty of the Indian cricket team right now, is just how much of a wealth of resources we have. So it's going to take a little bit more consistency of showing and playing across multiple formats for him to make a mark and get his call up.
It always helps, right, when you're playing for the Indian cricket team's franchise in the IPL. We saw a lot of Chennai boys make it in when Dhoni was captain. You see Chahal in the squad for India quite soon after he started doing well for RCB. Shivam Dube needs to start performing for the Royal Challengers Bangalore, and we might see him in soon. KL Rahul had a similar season, a breakout season, and he was in the Indian team.
I think you mentioned Chennai under Dhoni, but I think the difference was CSK was winning. I think until RCB wins, the domestic cricketers there are going to have a little bit of a harder time breaking through to the national side.
True, but Chahal and Rahul have done fairly well for themselves, to be honest. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll see how that pans out. But Shabazz Nadeem, right? And we've been watching this guy for how many years now? 7-8 years playing for Delhi in the IPL.
I think he was in the first. I mean, I don't remember, but I think he played in the first IPL for Delhi, right? If not, maybe the second one. But he's been around a while. I think he was 18. I guess.
Yeah, and he takes a lot of wickets, man. He takes a lot of wickets in first-class cricket. And as you said, he could have been the Venkatpati Raju of our generation, but we've been blessed with a lot of...
So I just pulled it up while we were looking. He played his first IPL game for Delhi in 2011. So you're right about that.
Yeah, and he's done well in the IPL, and he's done well. Unfortunate that he's playing in this era where we're blessed with Kuldeep and Chahal, and you've got Ashwin and Jadeja. I mean, just incredible spinners. He's blessed. We've been blessed with all these great spinners, and I mean, I think he does. He's just unlucky to be playing in this era, but maybe we'll see. As you said, 29 years old. Who knows where that ends up? But that's the India A update. As you said, Hanuma Vihari didn't really get too many runs in this, but Do you see him playing in the first test, or is it going to be Rohit, Ashwin?
I think Rohit's going to edge him out for the first test, but I do believe he continues to deserve a spot, so hopefully he gets a call-up somewhere during the series.
But that will only happen if Rohit fails, and Rohit did score 2 big hundreds against the West Indies in his debut series, so...
There you go. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, 2013 when Sachin was retiring. But that's where we are. Anyway, we're all looking forward to that test series. I can't wait to start watching India in whites again, to be honest. Speaking of which, we have a new Indian jersey, an Indian sponsor. Ashwin, what do you know about Baiju, and where have they suddenly decided to sponsor the Indian cricket jersey?
To be honest, I was pretty shocked when I heard them announced as a new sponsor. So Oppo, who's a Chinese firm, has relinquished sponsorship, I think, ahead of when their contract ended. So I'm not sure what happened there. But yeah, I mean, the only thing I really know about Baiju's is that Shah Rukh Khan is their endorser. So I used to see so many ads for Baiju's during the IPL and during other competitions. But hey, new sponsor, we'll see how it goes. What I do know is, from having looked them up, is that the man at the helm of Facebook, that's Mark Zuckerberg, has invested heavily in Baiju's. So obviously that's where they've raised some of the funding. It always continues to shock me that a company with revenues of $80 to $100 million a year has been able to sponsor a Indian cricket jersey that probably the sponsorship costs far more than their annual revenues. But hey, good investment for them. I believe it's an Indian-owned company, and now Zuckerberg, just like he has his eyes on all of us through Facebook, has a spot on the Indian jersey.
Yeah, incredible. And it just shows the value that India actually puts on learning, right? If it's a learning app, I mean, you're just like, wow, this is almost like a university or a school sponsoring the Indian cricket team, which must be it gets the most eyeballs in India in advertising terms, right? It's probably the most prime advertising space in all of India in some ways. I mean, I didn't know what Oppo was before they started sponsoring the Indian cricket team. And now I know what Baiju is. So yeah, good stuff. Well done. Well played to them. We'll see how it goes. And that, I think, starts later in the year before India-South Africa, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I'm not sure when it kicks in, but that'll be our next big ODI or limited over series.
Yeah, awesome. So speaking of which, obviously MS Dhoni isn't playing this game, so I wanted to give you guys an update on where he is. MS Dhoni is going to be deployed with troops in the Kashmir Valley for 15 days, starting the 31st of July. It's part of Victor Force, and he will be taking the duties of patrolling, guard, and post duties, and will be staying with the troops. So, Ashwin, your thoughts on MSD's contribution to the Indian Army? Go for it. This is going to be really controversial, so I'm really going to enjoy this.
No, I'm not saying anything controversial. Look, it's obviously a noble gesture to go support the troops and spend some time with the army. I just don't get it. I feel like it's something he could have just as well done after retiring. So it'd be great for Dhoni to retire from the game, go spend all the time he wants with the army, get deployed on the border, and serve his country, continue to serve his country, this time on the front lines, the way he's done in sport for a long time. I just do not understand why it's happening as a sabbatical. And anyway, I think we've talked about it a lot. I don't get it. It is what it is.
So the rumors on social media is that Kohli has actually asked Dhoni to reconsider retirement. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there are a lot of rumors on social media to do with Kohli that I just wish, it just almost makes me wish we didn't have social media right now. And that's a strange thing to say, but there's so much junk. It makes you realize how much free time the media and those of us, including us, I guess, are guilty of, have on Twitter and on social media in between Indian cricket. Like, we've gone from the IPL, from a variety of different international series, straight to the IPL, straight to the World Cup. Then we have about a week left until the next series kicks off, and people couldn't handle it. And so all sorts of crap has showed up on social media. So I don't know if there's any truth to the fact that Kohli was urging Dhoni to retire. I don't know if that matters, or not to retire, excuse me. I don't know if that matters. But we know we're here, where Dhoni is serving in the army, and the next wicketkeeper is just on hold.
Yeah, we'll see where that turns out. But I want to pick up on this social media thing, right? Because, I mean, you talked about being on Twitter. I think we're like dinosaurs if we're still on Twitter, because Instagram is where all the action is. And you spoke about rumors about Virat Kohli. Rohit Sharma has unfollowed Virat Kohli's wife, Anushka Sharma. Is there a rift between these two players, Ashwin? This is huge news in India, man. This is huge news. So Rohit used to follow both of them. He's now unfollowed Kohli as well as Anushka. what is happening? Are they not friends anymore? Are they going to run each other out? Are they going to be standing at the same end and just like planting their bat in and trying to like run the other guy out? What's going on?
Isn't that sort of what happened to you on the cricket field today? You got run out with somebody on the other end just standing
No
there?
comment. No comment.
Anyway.
I hit it nearly to the boundary, man, and they were easy too. I was strolling for the second one when I looked up to see the guy not coming back for the second one.
Yeah,
There's a video of it. I don't want to put it out on Twitter or whatever because it was being recorded at the ground. There's obviously privacy concerns and copyright concerns. But
no, I'm sure there's not that much of a copyright concern. You should do it.
Oh,
put it on social media. Let the people decide. Anyway.
No, man, I've got to play with these guys as well. And he's a nice guy and he was batting well. And there is some controversy as to which one of us was out. But I just walked off. I was just like, we needed like 20 to win anyway. And we had like 15 overs left.
Can you tell that I would much rather talk about your club cricket game than discuss who Rohit Sharma followed and unfollowed? It just
no, but what does it mean? What does this following and unfollowing mean?
I don't think it means anything.
It's Sansani Khed, bro.
I honestly, man, I don't think it means anything. I'm almost tempted to just ask the guys to edit this section out so that we aren't guilty of giving crap like this airtime. Pardon my language, but it just bothers me so much that this is what these guys are. Our sports people. We need to be supporting them. They're captain and vice captain of the limited over side. Kohli has had nothing but great things about Rohit in the media. I think this whole Rohit fans versus Kohli fans started as almost a joke on Twitter with people picking sides, and then it became a serious thing on social media with people picking sides, and now it's become news so much so that the rumor mill and the act of people picking sides might actually end up be what causes the rift. And that's so upsetting to think about. So I hope there's no rift. I really don't want to be talking about this more. I hope we just move on and both of them have phenomenal series in the West Indies.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the next social media post on my list, right? Sachin Tendulkar got inducted into the ICC Hall of Fame, right? He gets inducted into the ICC Hall of Fame. He got inducted a couple of weeks ago. 2 days later, Virat Kohli comes out with a video of him in the gym, right? And we spoke about how Kohli was going to hit the gym really hard after being knocked out of the World Cup with the scripts Hall of Fame playing in the background. Ashwin, are these some subliminal messages being sent by Kohli?
Again, I really, really hope not. And I don't want to discuss this kind of junk on our show because I feel like we're better than that, even though I know we're not. But I
definitely not. This is why I need Varun on the show with me. He would totally 100% support this nonsense.
He would know exactly what's going on and all the specifics of the Kohli video and stuff. I didn't even watch it, but hey, if it was him playing that song on purpose, then kudos to him. It's pretty funny. But if not, let's just hopefully move on and again get back to the sport if we can. I realize my answer is the boring one, but I'm just so tired. Like my entire social media is flooded. It's horrible.
Yeah, this is really boring. So I'm going to throw out another one to you. Mohammad Shami on Instagram has been sending direct messages to this girl, completely random girl, saying good afternoon. Randomly, and then this girl posts the Instagram screenshot and it's like, who is this guy with 1.4 million followers sending me direct messages on Instagram? What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, so this one was a few weeks ago, and I think, look, Shami's got a little bit of an interesting history, right? There was a lot of stuff going on with his wife that came up in the news a year ago, I think now, that he ended up getting dropped. And then he kind of came back and everybody just ignored it and swept it under the rug, which I don't think we should have done either. But hey, he's back in the team. He's playing. I thought this scam or this whatever social media post that went viral a few weeks ago was a little bit ridiculous, because it's one thing that, hey, there are cricketers or sports people who use their position, use their power to reach out to women, harass women, and that is not okay. It's just not, and the sport needs to do a good job shutting it out. I thought it was odd that Shami, the screenshot that was posted was literally a message from Shami saying good afternoon, which is about the most polite way you can message somebody. There was no response from her, no second, third, fourth message, nothing. One message, 2 words, good afternoon. So I'm not sure why this person chose to screenshot it and send it viral. You could argue maybe it shouldn't have been, he shouldn't have been sending unsolicited messages. But if you're going to send one, I think good afternoon is about the nicest thing you could say and nothing else. So I thought it was news again, just for the sake of news.
Yeah, but what I want to point out here, without saying anything further, is she says, anyone want to tell me why some random cricket player with 1.4 million followers keeps messaging me, right? This seems to be an ongoing saga. Maybe I'm being Sansani Case here.
You're definitely being Sansani Case. Look, I think
course,
if there are
man,
ongoing
masala.
messages and you didn't have an issue posting screenshots, feel free to post more. And then we should make an issue of it. Like if there are repeated messages and he's being pushy and he's harassing people on the internet, that is a problem and we need to address it. But I don't think there's enough yet to say that unless the individual's making that claim, in which case we need to, listen to it and accept it. But I think the whole thing was just odd is either you don't post screenshots and you claim something's happened and we investigate or the BCCI investigates, etc. You posting a screenshot of Shabby saying good afternoon just made me laugh a little bit because I don't really get it.
Yeah. And I think that this is getting very serious. So I'm just looking at Virat Kohli's Instagram feed, right? There's one video of him dancing, clearly a sponsored post for Puma. It's just random. He's dancing and unzipping his jacket. A bit strange. Then there's one of him releasing his 1.8 fragrances, which is Puma again, I think. Is it Puma as well? 1.8?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure.
So he's releasing 1.8 fragrances, which is, people have been making fun of that, saying, does the scent last more than your knockout appearances or innings or whatever? Yeah. I mean, it's not bad. It's pretty funny. It's a bit mean, but whatever. And then there's one of him where Jadeja is actually shaving or he's trimming his beard. And Virat Kohli has said, is it time to reveal our secret weapon for Philips India? Now, I know you had some particular thoughts about Virat Kohli and shaving. So do you want to share those with our listeners?
Well, I have always said for a while now that it's bizarre, but I think beard culture in India, and I mean, you have a big beard, but beard culture in India has largely been a follow through of Indian cricket players, largely led by Kohli. So I think
Oh yeah, I'm absolutely clear. My boss is Australian and he asked me why have you grown a beard, and I grew my beard in January, and I said the next time India goes to Australia and loses a test match and a test series there, I'll shave my beard.
There you go. Nice line. But yes, so I'm pretty sure, to cut a long story short, I'm pretty sure Kohli has been the genesis for millions of Indian men in their 20s, 30s, etc., growing beards. So I always say, if I was Gillette India, I would pay whatever money it takes to get Virat Kohli to shave his beard, go completely clean shaven, do it all live on camera, and just sponsor it by Gillette. And I think your shaving equipment, your blades, razors, etc., sales would go up dramatically overnight. So obviously for now they're in a deal with Philips India. Full disclosure here, I am an employee of the company that makes Gillette products, so I want to make sure that this doesn't seem like a plug. But yes, I think
you have to get this done. Yeah. You have to get
Maybe
this
I'll
done.
Find who runs the brand in India and see what happens.
You absolutely have to get this done. It can be called Gone in 60 Seconds Satasat, like your semi-final innings.
Maybe you should do marketing and I should become a lawyer. That's a great line. Gone in 60 seconds. Love it. Good line.
Awesome. I mean, okay. So now I think we've talked enough junk about social media and stuff. I think it's very interesting, the world we live in with the cricketers and the social media accounts, right? The Shami thing broke before the semi-final. Obviously, Jadeja came out and said stuff against Manjrekar before the last couple of group games, and Jadeja, the ones that he played in as well. So, I mean, it's just a different world now with the social media and cricketers on social media and all the news and the rumors that are constantly swirling around social media and all these theories and like these conspiracies and stuff. I just find it fantastic. This is not anything we knew about actually till we actually became quite active on Twitter. I don't know about you, whether you knew about the rift between Kohli fans, Dhoni fans, Rohit fans, and there's some people called Rinkurians as well who support Rinku Singh. But I didn't even know there were all these camps. I just thought we supported Team India. But yeah,
it's one thing to call yourself to be a Rinku Singh fan. It's another thing to come up with the name Rinkurians. That's pretty funny. Yeah, I didn't know about it either. I think it changes the game when you realize the cricketers are reading. And that's what makes it really interesting. So anyway, we'll see. Let's hope, like I said, all the rumor mills about a Rohit Kohli rift don't end up having the reverse effect and causing a rift. So let's hope the guys can be bigger than this and move past it.
Yeah, awesome, man. I think that's a wrap for this week, guys. We've had a great chat about what's been going on in the world of cricket. The Ashes Test match starts this Thursday. India versus West Indies T20 start next weekend. We'll obviously be back again. In the meantime, send us a message on Twitter. We're on Facebook at One Tip One Hand. We're on Twitter on the same handle. We're on Instagram at the same handle. Obviously, we've got to follow all the cricketers on their social media accounts so we can talk rubbish on this show about them sometimes. So yeah, come and say hi over there. Follow us. Leave us a review on iTunes. We're on all the big podcasting platforms. And yeah, tell your friends about us. I mean, we love doing this show. We absolutely love your feedback. We got some fantastic feedback in the last week, guys. So it makes it so much better for us to do this show. It gives us that little extra push to put this show together and come back week after week, just knowing that you guys are out there listening. So drop us a line on email as well if you want to write in like that. And until then, it's Ashwin and DJ signing off from the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast this week. We'll see you next week. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Ronnie Screwella, first-generation entrepreneur and co-founder at Upgrad. My podcast, Dreaming with Your Eyes Open, is a companion podcast to my best-selling book, Dream with Your Eyes Open. On this podcast, I talk to Amit Doshi, founder of IVM Podcast, about my entrepreneurial journey. I walk you through my successes and failures, mostly my failures, and the lessons that I learned from my experiences, family, and colleagues. What was my first entrepreneurial venture? Why I chose Japanese cartoons over animation cartoons on Hungama? Why did I sell my stake at UTV to Disney? Find out all this and more on the Ronnie Screwella podcast, Dreaming with Your Eyes Open. New episodes out every Tuesday on the IVM Podcasts app, website, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey guys, I'm Mikhail Almeida. I host a podcast with my co-hosts Akash Mehta and Siddharth Dureja on the IVM app. It's called What a Player.
What a Player.
WADDAPLAYAH, because illiterates can't find it on their own.
No, and the her at the end is very important. What a player.
Yeah. And it comes out every Thursday on the IVM app. Tune in, we discuss everything sports, all sports.
All sports.
Yeah.
Mainly cricket, other sport in the middle, sandwich.
What happened to your language skills? Don't worry, he talks better on the show.
Yeah.
It's a great show. It has all things, including cricket and things around sports as well.
Yeah.
And some personal life.
As you can see, we're a very united podcast. And if you want to listen to us, tune in to us every Thursday on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com.
Thursday.